Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in. Welcome to this episode of the Ending Body Burnout Show. Philly and I have one for you today, all about why you get sick on holidays. Just raise your hand if you've ever reached the holidays only to spend it in bed with a cold or a flu, gastro, or even feeling completely wiped out. Does that sound like you? Today we're going to talk about that.
Awesome. So many of our podcast ideas actually come from our own personal experiences, as well as conversations we're having with clients. And this topic came up, I don't know, it was a few months ago when Chris shared something that happened to him on holidays, and lots of clients were like, oh my gosh, yeah, I always get sick on holidays, or why is that the case? Why does this happen? So today we're going to dive into why you get sick on holidays. Okay, it's also a good timing. So this will be released in July and it's school holidays for many of us in Australia, which means a lot of people are probably traveling and holidaying. Or if you work in a industry where you have holidays at the same time as kids, even if you're not traveling, I know a lot of people can crash the moment that they don't have to work anymore. So this will be relevant, I think, for everyone. Okay, so in true Chris and Philly style, we're going to look at both the physical and the metaphysical sides of why you get sick on holidays. So let's dive into the physical side, hey?
Yeah.
All right. So, and from this point of view, we're really going to look at the science behind physically why people who are stuck in burnout patterns can really crash when they start their holidays. Okay, so some of these burnout patterns, if you've listened to the podcast for long enough now or you've worked with us, you will know what a burnout pattern is. But for those who might be new to the podcast, this is kind of like the pattern of go, 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 go. Got to do all the things, tick off all the to-dos. There might be some people-pleasing, perfectionism thrown into the mix as well. And we'll really talk about these patterns when we get to the metaphysical side of things. But what this is doing to the body is, first and foremost, you're producing a lot of cortisol and adrenaline production when you're in this fight, flight, go, go, go pattern. So cortisol and adrenaline are stress hormones and stress brain chemicals. And this might be an acute production leading up to going on a holiday. And I'm going to share my story too, but I'll do a little peppering at the moment that I used to get into a frenzy where it's just like, we're about to go on a holiday and I have to get all of this done. And I see this as a pattern too with clients leading up to Christmas holidays where it's almost, it's not even our clients, it's just the modern world of we need to make sure we get everything squared away before we go on a break for 2 weeks. Otherwise, our business or our workplace or the world is going to crash and come to an end. And this is essentially a trauma response. And what it's doing physically in the body is you're producing heaps of these stress chemicals and hormones. And it might be an acute production, but for many people who are stuck in body burnout, this is a pattern that has been running chronically. So not just leading up to a holiday, but it's been running for maybe years, if not decades of your life. And so that extra push to get all the things done before you go on a holiday can be the last straw on the camel's back that impacts your immune system. So when you're experiencing this pattern, you can have what's called a stress hormone crash. So after months of elevated stress hormones, this sudden permission to relax can cause a dramatic cortisol drop, where you can literally feel like you're physically crashing. And that often shows up in energy. So you get to the holidays and you feel completely wiped out. You might even feel quite low mood, almost like a shutdown, low motivation point of view experience. And for some people, sleep disruptions can occur. What this chronic and acute high stress also does when it comes to causing sickness leading up to holidays is that it suppresses the immune system. So when you're experiencing high stress, it literally suppresses the immune system, which makes you more vulnerable to picking up bugs. And what fires together wires together. So if you've got this nervous system dysregulation happening where it's like, go, 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 got to do all the things, and immune suppression, which occurs naturally when you're in this chronic state of fight, flight, or even freeze, then the two things can wire together. So your body can experience high periods of stress, and then at the same time, your brain-body system has created these neural pathways to say, oh, when we're feeling this nervous system dysregulation, our immune system also shuts down. And so this can show up really specifically when people are traveling. So I'll talk about holidays where you might just be on a holiday at home, and also holidays when you might be going away and traveling. So the thing when you're going away and traveling is that you're actually exposed to a lot more bugs than you would be if you're just staying at home, either in your house or in your community. And so your immune system is not as resilient. So it's going to start picking up more bugs, whether it's colds or flus on the plane or in airports, or maybe you're going to a foreign country and you're eating foods that you don't usually do that have bugs in the foods that you're not usually exposed to. And if your immune system isn't resilient to that, then you're more likely to get gastro, food poisoning, that sort of stuff. Also, what can happen when you're holidaying away from home is if you have entered your holiday in a dysregulated state, you can be more prone to feeling overstimulated. So when you're going on an aeroplane, when you're navigating a place you haven't been to before, or maybe it's a busier place than usual, there might be crowds and different sounds and different smells. This can wire your nervous system even more so, which can suppress your immune system even more so. And this is really common too for neurodivergent people in particular, because they're already they're more prone or more at risk to feeling overstimulated in different environments. Some other body system things I think about from a physical point of view is chronic stress will also impact your gut health. So on our functional medicine lab test that we run, we can actually look at different markers that can give us an indication as to what's going on with your gut health, but also how that's affecting your immune system. So if you are heading out on a holiday and you're getting really sick, then there could be something going on with your gut. Some things I think about are your secretory IgA. So this is a marker that can be seen on a stool test, and it shows whether your immune system is suppressed, and sometimes it can also show if it's very hypervigilant. So if that's really suppressed, then you're going to be more prone to picking up bugs and viruses and all sorts of things that can make you quite sick. If you've got a lot of pathogens overgrowing or your microbiome is depleted, that can also impact your immune system. And leaky gut can also make you more susceptible to having a dysregulated immune system, because it actually puts you more into a hypervigilant state. So leaky gut is basically where your gut lining starts to separate. And food particles, even pathogens, toxins that are in the gut, then seep out into the bloodstream. And this is really inflammatory, and your antibodies start attacking those things that are in the bloodstream because it's deemed it as foreign. And then that just puts more stress on your immune system. So if you have leaky gut, you can be more likely to getting sick, or having reactions, almost like a histamine reaction or allergy type reaction when you're heading away. I'd also be thinking from a physical point of view. So if you're someone who's like, yep, I tend to get sick and run down or overreactive when I'm on holidays, I'd be thinking about your detox pathways. So if your liver and your detox pathways aren't working functionally optimally, it's going to impact your immune system. And especially when we're on holidays, most people, not everyone, but most people are exposed to more foods and drinks like alcohol and sugar and processed foods that they might not usually be exposed to, or in the amount that they're exposed to. A lot of people too are getting dehydrated on holidays. And we can also be more exposed to environmental toxins depending on where we're traveling. So this can put more stress on the gut and the liver, which then suppresses the immune system even more. One other thing too, so this would be more for people who are traveling to different time zones. It can really throw out your circadian rhythm, so your sleep-wake cycle. Which then, if you're not sleeping very well, then that puts more stress on your body. So cortisol rises, which then can impact or suppress your immune system. I've also experienced this too, like sometimes different beds. I'm very particular with my pillow. So if I get like a really thick, hard pillow, I don't have a great sleep at night. Some people are the same with pillows or beds, or maybe there aren't blockout curtains like you're used to. And so if there's more light coming in or more sound coming into the bedroom that you're sleeping in, you can, not have as good a night's sleep, which will put more stress on the body and then therefore suppress the immune system. So they're the main things I think about from a physical point of view while we tend to get sick on holidays. And I mean, as I mentioned before, you might not actually be going away traveling for a holiday. You might just be at home and you crash. That's more that nervous system dysregulation, being in such a high stress state for so long. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I don't have to do anything, but you have this cortisol crash, which then wipes you out and you don't actually feel like you have much capacity to enjoy your holiday, even if it is just at home. Anything you want to add to the physical side of things, Chris?
That last piece really resonates with me. Spending several years in the army, one of my fondest memories is also one of the most awful physical experiences I've had in my life. For a couple of weeks, I lived out of a trench, and it was wet, it was muddy, it was painful. We had rashes, prickly heat. It was one of the best moments of my life, and I really honestly mean that it was such a hard experience that I see it through rose-colored glasses. Any soldiers or athletes would have the same sort of story, no doubt. Would I do it again? No. But do I remember it fondly? Yeah, I really do. And you could go back through the War Memorial, read poems about soldiers in Gallipoli and in the front in Europe, that they'll say the same thing. Rose-colored glasses about really awful experiences. Anyway, I can do that. However, when I go on holidays, I don't want to be in a trench. I don't want to be prickly heat and rubbish sleep. So you touched on a really interesting topic. I'm like the princess and the pea. I have 3 pillows. I've got one for my head, and it's a lovely, expensive pillow that fits me perfectly. I have one to cuddle with my arms. I put in like a headlock, and the other one, and I strangle it. I'm like literally in a stranglehold. And the other one I smash between my knees, keeps my spine aligned. And I'm a very active sleeper. I'll change positions maybe about 5 or 6 times a night that I'm aware of. And we've got a beautiful mattress. It's very expensive, very comfortable. I can move without sending my wife into
just
a
koala
slingshot
mattress.
Yeah, which is, well, I like it. Anyway, our doona is very comfortable. What I'm getting at is it is so not trench warfare in our bed. It is comfortable. And I'm 6'7". I'm over 2 meters tall. And so my feet hang right at the end of our king size bed. And there's taller guys than me. But when we go on to Airbnb if I'm looking for comfort and not the trench, and my expectations are this is going to be a comfortable experience. I'm going to relax. And then when it gets to nighttime and my calves are hanging off the end of the bed and I can't have my little strangle pillows and there's no like in between my knee things, that's not a very pleasant sleeping experience for Chris because my expectations aren't being met. But if I went in there expecting it to be Gallipoli and it was, I could probably get over it. But because I'm going into it expecting it to be a certain way and it's not, well, that's frustration. There's a gap there. So there's a bit of physical and metaphysical tied up into that sleeping experience.
Yeah, and there always will be. It's kind of like it's not one or the other. So if you're someone with a pattern where I'm like, oh, I always get sick, it's, I've just rattled off all the main physical things that can cause that from happening. But it's not just one or the other ever. And that's a good example.
So another thing that I could do, like when I go camping, I can have a tremendously amazing sleep. And I got a flaming air mattress that's like the size of my hand. And I can sleep like an absolute baby with a pillow that's inflatable and it's a quarter the size of my Snuggle Buggle one. So it's stories and expectations are so critical when it comes to holidays. So therefore, my my work for myself is get my expectations dialed in, metaphysically work, all this sort of stuff, and pre-book. If I can, have a look at the pictures and find beds that are absolutely going to be tall human friendly.
Yeah. Which
might cost more, and therefore there's some stories there around money and all that.
Actually, I just realised that when this podcast publishes, we will be on a plane to
Leaving
Bali
on a jet plane.
And this has been part of our.
If I'll have back pain.
Well, because I know that Chris is tall and he can get cramped and all that sort of stuff. I'm the type of person where I love an adventure. So when I go on holiday, I'm like, I want to see all the things. I want to experience the culture. I want to and this will, we'll dive into more of the metaphysical. I've dialed it in now, but in the past, it's like, I want to do every single little thing so I don't miss out. And my money is well spent and we're going to have a great holiday creating great memories. So that was a way perfectionism pattern showed up.
Enjoy this holiday. Stop crying, Chris.
And so our experience of that, or my experience of Chris of that, is that he's very different. So when he goes on a holiday, he wants to just rest. I think you would be happy if we just went to a resort and you laid by the pool for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, dangle my foot in the water, just stare at the clouds, just look up at them and just go, this is amazing. Look at that sky.
Whereas for me, I'm like, I could do that at home. Like, we're in a different country or a different state.
So do I. Like that's my life. Like I love looking at the clouds. I love getting my feet in the water and dangling. And so I don't need to go to any other I'm so comfortable. And so when I get forced, this is a story. When I get forced into an environment that's Gallipoli. It's a bit of a battle zone, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable.
The point of why I'm bringing that up now is that I've learned over time that we want different things from the holiday. And so I'm always, I'm the one that plans it. I'm the one that books the tickets. I'm the one that has the idea. I'm the one that books out the dates, schedules out the calendar, organizes the itinerary. But this one that we're going on in Bali, I'm okay, let's go to 2 different places. So usually my way of doing a holiday would be, let's get a car and we'll go to a different location every 2 or 3 days and we'll just see the whole country. Whereas this time I'm like, okay, Relax, Philly. I know that I'll probably end up with a very grumpy husband by the end of that trip. So we have compromised, or I compromised in my own head. I didn't even have to have this conversation with Chris, but we're staying in 2 different locations. And this time Chris does not have to drive anywhere. Usually we would hire a car and Chris would just like be the chauffeur and I'll be able to sit back and relax in the passenger seat. So I mean, like, I think that the point of this story is that if you are going on a holiday with other people, if it's not just you going solo, if it's you going solo, do what makes you happy, do what lights you up. But if you're doing it with other people and you have this pattern where it doesn't go so well because you might have different needs in your family, then yeah, like work to find a balance where you can still get what you want out of the holiday, but you're also not burning the other person out if all they want to do is rest and look at the clouds for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then dialing into metaphysical, I know my highest need. It's not family. It's not Philly. It's not believe it or not. It's not finances. It's not money. It's not things. It's being free. It's having an ability to do whatever I want, having that flexibility, and I really value that. And so I think in the past when I've felt forced that my needs don't factor, Chris, you're not important here. This is what we're doing and you'll like it. That's felt very forced, and I think we've had some good conversations in the last year or so that have allowed me to express myself. But we've got, I don't know if we'll talk about it now or a bit later, there has been in recent months some holidays where I've gotten sick, like broken down, smashed.
Oh, you can talk about it now. Go for it.
I had to poo so much.
That would have been January, so about 6 months ago.
All the poos, and
you got gastro.
Got gastro. Yeah. Poopy, lots of poops. Coming out hard, fast, and stingy.
And no one else did. So I don't actually think it was gastro, or maybe it was. Maybe you ate something. Urgent. But it was just interesting that it's like, my gut's fine.
Why did I? Wait, yeah.
Poppy and Elsie are fine. What's going on with your immune system?
Captain Chris was not super comfortable. Back pain. It started off with back pain, and then it ended up more around my pelvis and lower gut. And then it turned into cramping, like real, I don't know what it was like to have babies or period cramps, but I swear, like, that's from what I was Googling and talking to ChatGPT about. I had my first period.
But that holiday was interesting. So we stayed in Tassie. We went to St. Helens. We just stayed in an Airbnb for 5 days. I wouldn't say that was like a fast pace, go, overstimulating experience. But I think what happened there was your expectation was different to your experience of that. And your body was basically just like, stay in the home, stay housebound, rest.
Yeah, we love that location. It's such a beautiful place.
And there was definitely some miscommunication. There was some pollution under the bed of resentment building up between us. And that's usually the catalyst of you getting sick on a holiday. Because I remember and again, these patterns are way less than what they were, but they still showed up, which then caused a dysregulation between both of us. And like, I remember, I think it was just small things like, oh, where are we going to have dinner tonight? And you might have suggested something and be like, no, I want to go here. And then we'd open up the menu and it's like, what are we going to have? And you're like, this, and this. And I'm like, what? You're having 3 meals? So kind of just like a little bit of passive aggressiveness, a bit of like controlling patterns popping up.
Fine, you're giving me the crap,
and
so
then-
take this.
Well, and then you'll just shut down and go silent. And then it will
Otherwise- yeah.
show up in your body. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, well, if I'm not voicing what I need and kind of like giving Philly a shake and saying, hey, like, why are these patterns showing up? Let's have a conversation about it right now rather than allowing it to fester throughout the holiday. Then your body, if you're not voicing that in a healthy way, the body will voice it for you. And it's just like,
Yeah. And we've ever since then we've been having regular come together meetings. Meetings isn't the right word. Experiences where we'll talk about whatever's on our mind. We'll have like really nice conversations. If there's been some distance between us, I think that's our relationship signal that there's something that needs to be talked about. What was mine the other day? It was really funny. This is a segue, but kind of not really.
well, can I just, before you segue, because we did have a conversation a few days ago we do it on a Friday.
Yeah.
And I said at the closing of our come together meeting.
No, that's exactly what I'm talking about. This is the thing I was going to say.
Oh, I just said, hey, can we make sure that we continue these conversations when we go to Bali? Because I don't want Bali to be a fester of we stop talking to each other. And it's not that we don't talk to each other. It's we're not communicating our needs and our wants and having like a big D and M, because usually the pattern in a holiday would be we've got the kids as well, and sometimes the puppy dog, and we're navigating lots of stuff, and we kind of then just brush aside the things that are important to us or the things that we're noticing resentment about, and then it will blow up in some way, and usually it's like physically.
And the risk of having these conversations for you and I is that, like, well, we can be honest. We're both pretty good at saying what's on our mind when we give each other the space. And the risk of that is that I might say something that can strike a nerve, and then likewise back at me as well. Like, you can say something honest, and it's just like, right, that's kind of painful to experience.
Did you want to share your segue? Because it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
So this is not a holiday example, but just something that
But this-
happened maybe a month or so ago.
This is super important to me that I was suppressing, that I didn't realize how impactful this was to me. And when we had our come together and we were talking,
I was just poking the bear. I'm like,
and then I could feel it.
I'm
and
like,
then,
you've been a bit, I don't know, distant.
and
you were like,
suppressive.
no, I haven't. No, I haven't.
But then I thought, yeah, I actually have. And then I thought, okay, well, why? And then I backtracked a few times. It was this. And then why did I do that? It was because this. And why did I do that? It was because this. And then I was like, when it all started? And then I started getting really teary.
He cried.
I started crying. I was like,
You were sob laughing.
We had this really big frost in Tassie, and I've been really enjoying, really experiencing a joy in gardening and
Vegetable gardening.
and I made a few mistakes. I did a few things that if I had to do them again, I wouldn't do them that way, and I wouldn't plant that particular crop, blah blah blah. Anyway, we had this real intense frost. Everything died in our garden except for a couple of things. I was heartbroken. And now I don't require this to live or survive, or we're lucky enough and blessed enough for that not to be the case. And there's plenty of farmers out there who survived through this frost, I think. Anyway, this hurt. It caused emotional pain to me. And
But you pretended like it didn't.
Can you tell the cleaner
Well,
story?
yeah, we
Don't
had-
mention names, but like...
We had our cleaner come in on the day of the frost or the day after, and she's like, how you going? And we were both saying like how cold it was because it was still super frosty. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's super sad. Our vegetable garden's dead. I think, and I said, Chris is sad. And then a couple of minutes later, you came into the room and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Chris. And you're
So
like, what
sweet.
for? Oh, I'm so sorry that your vegetable garden died. And Chris said, and I could tell that he was doing it like in a masculine, unresourceful way. Oh, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. these things happen. And then you just walked off into your office and closed the door.
Wow. Yeah. So I don't recall it. So that was obviously a very suppressed experience. But anyway, in our come together, I just had that conversation with Phil, and it just, when I opened it up, I realized, man, I'm actually quite sad. I have a sadness there, and maybe a little bit of shame and guilt in there. Like I should have done it this way. I should have done it that way. I'm not good enough. I'm not a real farmer. You know, it's comical now. I notice it, and I can laugh about
also
it,
just
and
the
it's
grief,
light.
like just paring away any beliefs and stories. It's also just the grief and the loss, which you didn't allow yourself to metabolize and move out of your body.
But now I have, and it's light, and I've already, like, literally, I've made a plan of things to plant next. I've gone and pulled some old things out. I've actually gone out the back, and I've actually done some stuff. I've pinned some beans and peas that didn't die, by the way, in the frost, that are actually kicking butt.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Shall we get back to holidays? I'm just thinking we could have done this like a vegetable garden episode on this.
The point of me saying this is this was a suppressed thing for me. And if we didn't have these regular come-togethers,
our Bali holiday probably would have been very uncomfortable.
Right, yeah. Having these come-togethers allowed me the space and the time to be heard, to feel safe, to say what was on my mind, to explain why I felt distant. And so I think top tip, listener, is to, with the stakeholders in your life and the important people, have some come-togethers. Come together, meet together, allow each other to speak openly. And our relationship is definitely, it thrives when we have our open discussions.
Coming into your little video.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay, so let's talk about some other patterns or metaphysical patterns that can show up with holidays that can contribute to the crash, moving into holidays, the sickness, the immune system. And again, we'll talk about the patterns from a body burnout point of view. So people who are running the overdoing, perfectionism, people pleasing, even kind of shut down, suppression type patterns. So a really common one could be overdoing previous to the holiday. And that could either show up in terms of like, I got to get all the things done at work so that it's all ticked away. Or it also might show up as like, I need to earn this holiday. So I have to work really hard so I can feel like I've done a good job and I'm deserving and worthy of this holiday. Something else that might show up is, if you're running this pattern, is cramming everything in before the holiday. So whether that's like you're leaving your home to go on a holiday, or it might be the whole Christmas thing where it's just like, I've got to do all the things and make sure everything is in place so that I can put my head down at night and know that I'm a good human being and know that the world isn't going to fall apart and that I'm going to be okay. So if you're running these overdoing pre-holiday patterns, often it also means that you're neglecting self-care leading up to it. It's like you've only got 24 hours in a day, and your sleep might even get carved out in order to get all the things done before you go away. Or you're just making poor nutrition choices, dehydration, maybe not even going to the toilet regularly, because you're trying to cram everything in before you go away. And this, again, will put more... it will weaken the immune system because you're putting yourself into a really dysregulated state. Perfectionism can also show up, and that might be around over planning a holiday. So that's kind of what I was like talking about a little bit. And I remember, this was a massive pattern for me. This Bali holiday, besides booking our tickets for the flight, I haven't even done visas or anything yet.
Oh.
That's okay. I can do it the day before. You can even do it at the airport. It's okay. But besides booking tickets and Airbnbs, I have no idea what we're going to do. And I actually really love that spaciousness and that freedom of it. And it also means I'm not spending my time prior to the holiday trying to work out what I'm doing for the holiday, plus life admin, kids, family, and business. But in the day, I definitely had this over planning tendency where I'd need to like research, and this is prior to like ChatGPT. So research all the possible things that we could do and have this step-by-step itinerary. And this is what we're going to do on this day. And this is where we're going to go and eat. Back in the day too, when I had food allergy, intolerance, things going on, I chose to. It was part of the perfectionism over controlling pattern, was like work out where all the places I could go that are going to be nice to eat. And so this was just really time consuming, but it was driven from a place of fear. It wasn't so much excitement and just like, yeah, I find a lot of joy pre-planning. I remember kind of dreading it and feeling resentful that like, why can't Chris plan our itinerary? Like, why am I the one that has to do it? So it was definitely showing up as an unresourceful perfectionism pattern. This could also happen during the holiday. So if you have this internal pressure where I have to have the most perfect holiday experience for myself and my family or my friends or whoever you're holidaying with, because if I don't, then it's going to mean something bad about me. If I don't create that for myself, especially create it for other people, then I'm going to be exposed that I'm somehow less than, weak, incapable, not deserving, not lovable. Sometimes this can also show up as a tendency, and this was the case for me too, where leading up to the holidays, I had this massive to-do list, and they were just like little things like make sure you water the plants, make sure you figure it out who's going to look after the dog, make sure you work out when you're going to put the bin out before you get in the car to go away so that you don't come home and there's like rotten veggies in the bin and the house is going to stink. Like, this is what my brain used to do leading up to a holiday. Again, it's a perfectionism pattern where
Jeez.
I don't think I've ever shared that with you, Chris, but I knew that when I was going to share this on the podcast, I knew you would have that reaction. It's like, what?
Because Chris is, if I did think of that when we get home, I'd be like, oh, wow, I should have put the bin out. Oh, well, I'll put it out now.
It was even
look, there's maggots.
Well, it was even to the point where I had to strategically work out, like, how are we going to eat all the food in the fridge so we're not wasting anything, but we're also not throwing anything out, but we're not leaving anything in the fridge to go off. So even like 2 weeks in advance, it's like, what am I going to purchase so there's not going to be waste? And this was all tied up in like money scarcity patterns that I used to have as well.
Man, that's so funny because I'm the opposite. I'd be like, my plans are like, all right, so what am I going to do now? Now I've not done the thing. How am I going to rescue the bin from maggots and rotten food? That's where I think I'm in the moment, react rather than pre-plan.
Yeah. So these patterns definitely going to weaken your immune system because you're putting yourself into a dysregulated state. People pleasing is really common too, especially if you're holidaying, again, whether it's at home, carving out time to go on like outings with the kids, or if you're going away with your family on a holiday. So if your holiday involves other people, people pleasing can definitely show up that can then dysregulate your nervous system, put more stress on your body and weaken your immune system. So it often shows up as I have to make sure the rest of the people who I am holidaying with, usually it's the family, will be happy. So this extra pressure to get it all right, which can feed a perfectionism pattern, which then can feed an overdoing pattern. Sometimes it might show up too if you're traveling to places or even at home, but you've got carved out time for a holiday. If you run these strong people-pleasing patterns, often it can show up as like, oh, I feel like I have to catch up with everyone. And I need to make sure that, maybe I can even serve people during my holidays as well. So how can I help them so that they can love me, they can accept me so I can feel like I belong? Again, it will feed this overdoing pattern if you feel like you have to try and please everyone, catch up with everyone, help everyone, make sure everyone else is happy. And that's where you then start suppressing your own needs and your wants and desires, which will weaken your immune system. And the last pattern that I think about from a metaphysical point of view, which is what Chris touched on, is sometimes getting sick during a holiday is just your body's way of forcing rest. So especially if you are running these overdoing, hyper-vigilant, controlling type patterns, your unconscious mind is nervous. So it's like, great, like we know that there's 2 weeks or 4 weeks coming up where we're going to have this holiday, but how can I trust you to rest? Like, how can I trust you to relax and settle down and have a wonderful time and rest and recharge and connect? And so if the unconscious mind doesn't trust you, then it's like, cool, well, I'm going to force your rest by making sure you get sick or you feel really wiped out so that you can't overdo on this holiday. It's kind of impossible to then overdo.
I have one little or two little additions to that. The first one is like really unclear expectations around what the holiday actually is, you know, and that's going to be something where in the past I know we've not communicated, and then all of a sudden, well, my highest value is freedom, as I said before, and so then I'm thrown into the mix. My poor communication has locked me in to no freedom, and so therefore, how can I take responsibility for that? Is next time have actual conversations with my wife, and then I can have my expectations set, you know, more realistically. I'm not off in fantasy fairy tale land of what I expect and then magically expect my wife to have read my mind, which as if I can expect that because I can't even do that.
Yeah. And I'm reflecting, like, again, I'm kind of coming back to this Bali holiday we're planning for, getting ready for. But there were some specific questions. So when I looked at, like, you know, I found, here are the top 20 Airbnbs. Chris, which one do you want?
And I scroll through and look at the beds
and
first.
he will look at, like, which has the king size bed, which one has the aircon, which one has a pool, which I'd kind of filtered in anyway. But I know that that's more important to you. And so it's like, cool, I'll handball that decision to you. And then there was also do you want to drive this time? Like, do you want to actually have a car and drive around, or have someone that we just pay a day to have someone drive us around?
Which I think I'd feel, I actually kind of want to just not do that
this time, hey? Because
we've been in Bali before and we know how easy it is to, like, get a taxi
and
or something.
Also, like, the traffic's nuts. And so I was thinking about your nervous system, which, like, from the point of view of me being a passenger.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah, I was.
You think about me.
Me being a passenger, I'm not on high alert like you are as a driver. For example, when we went to Fiji last year, you know,
which was all right. Fiji was fine.
Yeah, but. Anyway.
Actually, I'm glad we had the car.
Okay, all right. Maybe we should have got a car for Bali then.
No, I'm happy. No car Bali.
Okay.
Bali's not Fiji. No way. Maybe a little bit of Kuta and a couple of suburbs, but nah.
Yeah. I just want to share one story, and then we'll talk about some things that you can do to have a great holiday. So some preventative things to support your immune system. So, I mean, I touched on this. So my old pattern, and, like, you know, it can still pop up sometimes, where it's like, let's have a great holiday and jam as much as we can and do all the things, which I've dialed back. But definitely back in the day, that was a massive pattern. And I ran the perfectionism patterns and I got to do all the things to-do list before we go, and I have to make sure that the holiday's going to be great. Like, a massive symptom that showed up for me was 2 weeks leading up to a holiday, I would just get insomnia, which makes sense in hindsight. My nervous system was so overwhelmed. I was in fight, flight. So there was a lot of cortisol running throughout my body. And then it's like, bang, don't sleep. And the pattern with not being able to sleep was my mind just couldn't turn off. It's like, what if have I got the passports? Oh gosh, what if I've made the wrong decision around, like, where we're staying? Oh, maybe I need to, like, look back at that. So it was just this ongoing, have I made the right decision? Have I made the right choice? What else do I need to do so that so that we can have a great holiday. And so for that 2 weeks, like my sleep would be rubbish. And by the time we went on a holiday, and sometimes this was just going to Sydney or somewhere, it wasn't even an overseas trip. And sometimes like this pattern would even show up.
We live in Tasmania. Everything's overseas.
This pattern in the past even showed up if I was going on a solo trip for maybe like business or to see my sister. It would still show up regardless of who was going. So in the scheme of things, it wasn't a big deal going on a weekend trip to Sydney, really. But my nervous system, my brain was just like, danger, danger, danger. Got to make sure you get all the things right. So by the time I reached the holiday, I was exhausted. And usually it would take like 1, 2, 3 nights for me to be able to settle down and be able to start sleeping again. And always I would catch a cold or a flu either on the holiday or coming back, and I always blamed the plane.
Aircon.
Come back and I was sick. So the things that I did to address it, well, I worked on my body systems for sure. Thinking in the past that it was just a physical immune system issue. And I did run a pattern too where I was getting sick all the time. So this is going back 10 years, but every 2 to 4 weeks, catching a cold and a flu, that over time got better as I supported my gut health, detox pathways, adrenals. But it was still this immune system crash and this insomnia crash was still showing up around the holiday. So it wasn't until I did deeper metaphysical work around getting to the root belief of, like for me, it was weak and incapable, which made a lot of sense as to why I was super controlling and had to be hyper vigilant and overdo before and during the holiday. So that made a massive difference. And I can't remember what holiday it was, but it was a traveling trip. And I remember sleeping all the way to the point that I then got up and went on the plane, and it felt like a miracle. It's like, whoa, I just slept for the whole 2 weeks leading up to this holiday and I feel great, ready to start this holiday. Something else I did too somatically, and I had a little flare up. It was actually last year. Again, there'd been many holidays where sleep soundly, it was totally fine. But last year I had a trip to Sydney. It was for a business thing. And it was a couple of days before. I just remember waking up and it was almost like a little switch had flicked on. And I all of a sudden felt like I had so much to do before going on this solo trip to Sydney. I wasn't even taking my kids to that one. And I went to a somatic session with one of my teachers, Charlene Broughton, who's actually done a beautiful somatic trauma release session inside our Ending Body Burnout method, which I'll pop the link in the show notes for clients if they want to check that out. Basically, you're rolling around on the floor, you're rocking, you're shaking. There's no mental, like you're supposed to drop out of your head and into your body. And I had this experience during this 90-minute session where I went back in time, and I was, I think, 8 years old, and it was my first overseas trip to USA. And it was really interesting. It's like, and I went into that session wanting to be able to find either more data around why this little flare up was happening, but also essentially to release it. And so took me back to USA, which I don't have a lot of conscious memory of, but I know that my mum was experiencing a lot of anxiety and panic attacks then. So I imagine that she would have been really stressed leading up to this overseas holiday with 4 little kids. There would have been a lot of just stimulation with the airport and the long plane trip and the new country. And so after this session, I can't even explain what happened, but basically I felt like I was flying on the plane and I was free and it was beautiful and amazing. And when I came out of that session, that urgency and that feeling of like, I've got so many things to do before I go to Sydney had just completely gone. Like it was completely switched off, which demonstrated and showed to me that I had this unconscious pattern of a distressing event or a dysregulating event still stuck in my system that as it came out, then it switched off that pattern. Okay. So just to finish off, I thought it would be nice to give you some really practical prevention strategies.
Chris's top tip is communication. Like just
Yeah.
if there's anything in your head, if there's anything going on, stop holding it in. Have communication. Find regular times to talk, especially to yourself. If you don't have you time, then you're really doing yourself a disservice, and you're holding yourself back. And you're losing rapport with yourself, which is the most important thing. And then have communication with your partner, and then any other stakeholders as well.
Yeah. And big picture point of view, like there's going to be some deep root cause beliefs that need to be healed and reprogrammed to then be able to have these conversations. And if you're someone who does tend to get sick a lot or feeling wiped out, there's probably some pretty big body systems that need an overhaul as well. So this bigger picture, deep healing stuff we do inside our Ending Body Burnout Method program, which I'll pop the link in the show notes. Our doors open again in September. I've also got my calendar open if you want to just start off with the first step, which is a Connect the Dots initial consult. So both of those links are in the show notes. But I would be thinking about so during holidays, I actually take some supplements with us. And this is as preventative, but also we can use it in more therapeutic dosages if someone does get sick. So Bioceuticals Armor Force is amazing for colds and flus. And I'll just dose this all up during the holiday, especially if we're going somewhere overseas where there are different types of bugs. Colloidal silver is also really good antiviral, and I use the brand Argentine 23 because that is the best one that I've found. We'll also, if we're going overseas, I'll take Saccharomyces boulardii and colostrum, which is really great for the microbiome, the gut health, and great to prevent food poisoning, gastro bug type pathogens. So throughout the whole holiday, I'll dish everyone out their little supplements. And then if someone does get sick, so for example, in Fiji, you got a bit sick with a bug. You got a bit of diarrhea. I think I did too after eating like a duck thing.
Which I can't remember.
So with Saccharomyces boulardii, and again, check with your healthcare provider before doing this, but like you can do quite a lot of that probiotic, even like 12 tabs a day, just to flush out the pathogens in the gut. I definitely recommend drinking lots of water, especially if you are going on an aeroplane, because you can get really dehydrated and that will impact the immune system.
Not out of the tap.
Oh, yeah, if you're going overseas, or I don't know, even like Sydney, Melbourne, where it's very heavily chlorinated.
I would never drink water out of the Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne taps.
Yeah. With food...
Do better, water companies. Do better.
With food, I stick with a 70-30 rule when I'm traveling. Usually at home it's 80-20, maybe even 90-10 in terms of like healthy, clean, whole food. I'm a lot more relaxed while I'm traveling, but I still feel better if I'm eating most of the time healthy, whole food. Try and opt for gluten-free, dairy-free, refined sugar-free options if they have them when we're eating out. But I'm also not stressed if they don't. Or if I really want a burger and chips, it's just like, eat the burger and chips. So that's from a food perspective, just kind of think about what you're eating because that will impact your immune system. But also if you're overstressing, trying to be a perfectionist around trying to eat super healthy while you're on holiday, that's going to impact your immune system as well. Sleep is really important. So as Chris and I mentioned, we're pretty picky with our beds and our pillows.
Little soft princesses, aren't we?
So I would, if you're going to do some prior planning, I would find a place that looks like it's going to have a good sleeping quarters. When we do stay in Airbnbs, I'll usually go through all the beds first of all. Chris is more picky on the mattress, so I let him pick the mattress, but I'll pick the best pillow because I know that that's going to help me have a great sleep.
You know what happened I just remembered, speaking of that, that's what didn't happen in St. Helens. Elsie took the big thing. And
I let her.
I let her. and didn't speak my truth.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
So a little rat bag.
Another thing I notice in hotels and some Airbnbs is they've got a lot of things plugged into the walls with the little flashy lights.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'll do before we go to sleep is I'll either turn everything off that I can see that it has a light, or if it's something that might need to stay plugged in, I'll put like a pillow or a piece of clothing over it. Even if it's like a tiny little red light, I'm still covering it up because I'm like, my sleep is going to be pristine while I'm on this holiday.
That's another thing that I do, the little personal thing. I don't like sleep masks, but sleep masks are great. What I do instead of sleep masks, because I don't like that strapping feeling of the strap on my head, so I like a shemagh or a scarf that I can just drape over my face and leave my big snorkel, leave my nose out. And that seems to be a winner for me.
I'd also try and stick with your usual sleep time routine. So the research shows that the more consistent you can go to bed and wake up at the same time, and that might be different depending on your body clock, that's the best thing you can do for sleep. So even when you're going on a holiday, if you can try and go to bed at the same time that you usually would, that is like your natural sleep-wake cycle, that's going to help, and it's going to help your immune system to function better. If you're traveling on flights, I think about some lymph work after your flight. So that could be as simple as putting your legs up on a wall, so lying down on a floor, but then putting your legs up so you're at a 90-degree angle, and staying in that position for about 15-30 minutes. It just helps to drain the lymph and the fluid from the bottom of your legs and helps with lymph flow that's going to be going round and round like a circle throughout your whole limbs and your body. Also, if you've got lymph gloves or a toothbrush for dry brushing, or a lymph brush, those types of things can be really helpful too, just to make sure that your lymphatic system is moving free and flowy, which will then help your immune system. And have fun. So if you do notice stress travel patterns pop up, like if you haven't done a lot of work with Chris and I, there will be stress patterns that will pop up while you're traveling. If you're a client or a past client that has done a lot of work with Chris and I, especially at a metaphysical level, just notice if any of those old patterns pop up. Like how I mentioned, I was noticing they were popping up when Chris and I went to St. Helens at the beginning of this year. It might be around spending money or controlling or putting pressure on yourself to make sure everyone else is happy, or maybe you're noticing that kind of like that urgent pull to do a lot of things.
Or not do anything.
And sometimes it's just, so again, if you're more practiced in being aware and knowing what to do with those patterns, sometimes it's just being aware of them. And it's like, oh, hey, oh, hello, little pattern. Why are you popping up? Oh, yeah, okay. And sometimes it's just a reminder that they're old shadows of protective patterns that have been very prevalent in the past. And sometimes, and often, just having a conversation with those patterns or that part of you that's popping up, kind of like freaking out a little bit, and to say, like, I'm safe now, it's okay, I'm here on this holiday, however the holiday unfolds is going to be wonderful, it's okay. And often that's enough just to allow them to kind of shake off, settle down. My last point too would be, and Chris has talked about expectations, is if you're going with your family, expect there to be drama. Just expect, especially if you're going with children and your family members have big personalities, it's part of the game. Just expect that there's going to be some tantrums, or there's going to be some big needs that need to be expressed, or there's going to be some weird things that pop up. So when we go on holidays now, my expectation is not, we're going to have like the perfect time and everyone's going to be so happy and everyone's going to be so relaxed and chill and we're all going to want to do this adventure. I just expect that, like, my kids are probably going to buck up. And, maybe Chris will too, but that's okay. It means that a conversation needs to be had, and And so like I expect that to happen, which means when it does, it's like, oh, I was expecting that to happen. So cool. That's okay. It hasn't ruined the holiday.
Boom.
All right. Awesome.
Otherwise, it'll give you
The poops.
the poops. It'll crap you to tears. Literally and metaphysically. Have the best day ever, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Stay healthy. Stay awesome. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout Assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.